and kind of what Jeff wanted us to talk about today. So leading post 2020, what is the new normal? So I kind of went back and went through this whole thing about how did this all stack up for us. So, my earliest, thoughts around the pandemic happened at the end of February. I was flying to Cleveland to purchase a new car, which is a story in itself. It was nothing fancy. It's just a Yukon Denali, but I wanted one feature that nobody seemed to have except this guy in Cleveland. And I remember flying up thinking, is this really a smart move? Because we were starting to hear more and more about COVID. We were starting to hear more and more about how infectious it was. And I just remember thinking, this is something I might want to, consider what I'm doing. We were already having meetings at this point inside the organization talking about COVID and what was happening. And it was kind of like already on our radar. March 2nd, you can see I called out here, we started receiving information from outside, I would say partners, outside consulting firms on what they believe that COVID's impact would be both in the nation and worldwide. And we started using that to talk about what we needed to do from an organizational standpoint. I showed it here on March 2nd. I was having lunch with a local CIO and I got pulled away to talk a little bit about some things that we were setting up. And he told me just several weeks ago, we got together virtually, and he said, I really thought that you guys were blowing this all out of proportion when you had to walk away that day during lunch. He said, but now realizing you guys really were maybe ahead, or at least had your pulse on what the right things were that were going on. March 13th, Friday the 13th, I head to the beach with my family, and by Wednesday we're coming back because the beaches have been shut down. Florida was a mess, and I could kind of see that we were getting ready to go home. So by March 27th, we were home. We had sent everybody home, and we were working remotely. I will say this was a great conversation for our board and for our private equity partners, because we were one of the few, as I understand it, we were one of the few of their portfolio organizations that were able to enact a disaster plan that, we literally went overnight. We started, sent everybody home one day, and the next day everybody was working remote. We had a couple hiccups here and there, but the guys had already gone through and determined metrics on bandwidth we needed at the data center. They'd gone through and did metrics on additional licenses we might need. And we signed all that stuff before we left so that we knew if we needed to enact any of it, we could just pass on the signed upgrades and we would have those things going. So by March, end of March, we're remote and we're trying to figure out what to do.